Hi there, this is Alex from PI Paintball and AG Paintball. This is the first video in a series of short quick videos where we're going to cover some basic field maintenance and cleaning of some of the popular gun types out on the market today. Today's first video is going to be about Dye's patented fuse bolt system. I have here before me some of the Dye's fuse bolts from their guns over the years. First off, over here we have the bolt system out of a Proto Matrix 5. Next we have a Dye Matrix 7. Right here we have a 2013 Proto Rail. Right next to it is a 2013 Proto Reflex Rail. And right next to it is a DM13. Okay, so again, here we have the fuse bolt systems from Dye guns over the years. Again, we have the Proto Matrix 5, the Dye Matrix 7, the 2013 Proto Rail, the 2013 Proto Reflex Rail, and the one rolling away there is the Dye Matrix 13. As you can tell, they all look pretty similar, with the exception of the Dye Matrix 13 large sleeve that covers the back cap and the top hat. But right under this sleeve, the pieces are just about the same as these other later year models. So, for today's video, we're going to be using the 2013 Proto Reflex Rail because it more resembles other Dye guns from the past. Just move these out of the way here. Alrighty, so to start off with, your bolt kit is going to be in the back of this gun, like so, in which case you're going to need an Allen key to unscrew this, and once you get it far enough out, you'll be able to pull the entire bolt system out, just like that. Set this gun aside. Now sometimes if you continue to screw the back cap out further than you actually need to, you'll find that when you pull out the bolt system, the only part you're going to get is these back two pieces here. That's quite alright, it's just come unscrewed from the rest of the fuse bolt system, and the only thing you need to do is go in from the breech of the gun and push the rest of the system out with a wooden dowel, a stick swab, or whatever else you have handy that you think is not going to damage the internals of the gun. So, let's just put this back together and we can go ahead and get started. Alright, so as we get started here, you might think to yourself, I don't have a 2013 Proto Reflex Rail. Well, Dye guns over the years have used the same patented fuse bolt system, and in turn, they generally use the same four basic pieces of bolt. You have the back cap back here, which screws into the top hat, which stretches from about here to here. Up front, you have the can, and then inside the entire bolt system, you have the bolt itself. So, over the years, the shape and size of these pieces might have gotten smaller or larger, or just look a little different, but it's all generally the same, and the O-rings are practically going to be at almost the same spot for any year of these DMs or PM guns. So, let's get started. First of all, we need to take this all apart. So I'm going to start off by unscrewing this back cap part. And that pulls out right like that. Second, we're going to take off this top hat, and that unscrews from the can right there. There's your top hat off. Third, we need to get this can off the bolt itself. To do this, all Dye and Proto guns are going to have an O-ring on the tip of the bolt right here. So we need to get this off so we can slide the can forward and off the bolt. The easiest way to do it, if the O-ring has been on there for a little while, it might be a little stretched out and you might be able to get it with your fingers. The other way to do this is to use some kind of pick, but I do warn you, you definitely want to make sure you do it properly so you don't damage the O-ring, in which case you're going to have to replace it. So now that this bolt tip O-ring is off and in good shape, I'm going to put that aside there, and now the can comes right off the front of the bolt and you're left with just the bolt itself. Now we have all four main pieces of the bolt assembly apart. So our first step is going to be to clean them off of any old grease, dirt, or debris. For this, I recommend either just a paper towel or, like I have, a nice microfiber cloth. So just go ahead and give these a nice wipe down through over all of the metal parts. Make sure you get those O-rings nice too, and any of the tiny holes or crevices. Definitely want to make sure there's nothing left floating in there that's going to end up in your air system, which in turn could end up in your breech, and that's going to cause you to chop or break paint. So we're going to clean this inside and out, make sure that's all clean. Alright, now that we have everything clean, next up, you're going to have to reach for your favorite grease. In this video, I'm going to use hater sauce. That's my personal favorite, but any other grease will do. I see a lot of people using the stock dye lube that comes with the guns. The stock dye lube works absolutely great. I see a lot of other people using hater marmalade or sleek lube, all of which are going to work fine. I'm just going to use hater sauce. So the first thing we're going to do is take the most internal piece, the bolt itself, and get some grease on these O-rings that we're never going to be able to see again once we put the other bolt pieces on. So, unscrew my hater sauce. I'm going to take a decent amount. You see I have on my finger. It doesn't come out a lot. It's not a super terribly large amount, but it's generally good enough to get a good liberal coating on all the O-rings. And as I turn it, you can see there that there's quite enough to cover all the O-rings, but there's not a lot of excess. It's not going to travel anywhere. And generally, if you can still see the O-rings and the color of the O-rings, I think you're in pretty good shape. So now you want to make sure you get some grease on these bolt stem O-rings right here. Let's take a little more. Mark that around. Alrighty. So now just for a second, we can set this aside. And the next thing we're going to do is put grease on this can that comes on the bolt. So the big thing you guys have to watch out for is on the front of the can, right here. If you look on the inside, there's actually a very small O-ring that sits on the inside right there that seals the bolt when it's moving back and forward. You definitely need to make sure you get grease on that, or else you're going to have leaking problems. This is generally what causes leaks down the barrel or out the feed neck. So make sure we get a good coat on that. So for right now, all the O-rings on the outside of the bolt kit, I'm going to leave dry so that when I'm handling and putting all these pieces back together, I'm not getting grease all over the place. So right now we can go ahead and slide that back on the bolt. And because we have this can back on the bolt, we can go ahead and put this bolt tip O-ring back on. Our next step is going to be to lube the top hat. So just like with that can, there is a small internal O-ring inside the front of the top hat right here, which the bolt seals with. Definitely need to make sure you get some grease on that. A lack of grease here will cause leaks out the back cap. Other leaks out the back cap could be caused by these last two O-rings on the bolt tip itself, but a lot of the problem I see is with this internal O-ring on the front of the top hat right here. So we're going to do that. On this particular model, the back end of this top hat that screws into the back cap has its own two O-rings. So we're going to put a little bit of grease on there too. And with that done, we can go ahead and put this top hat and screw it right back onto this back cap. Alright, so now we've got two main parts here. We've got the back cap top hat, and we've got the bolt itself and the sleeve. With all these internal O-rings greased, we can go ahead and put the entire fuse bolt system back together. This is that point where you can go ahead and grease all these external O-rings right here that provide sealant for the body. So the same thing with all the other O-rings we just did. You want to put a decent amount, a liberal amount, but definitely not too much where there's lots of excess grease hanging around. Alrighty, so our Proto Reflex Rail fuse bolt system is now completely cleaned, re-greased, and it's ready to go back in your gun so you can shoot it tomorrow morning. So for reassembly into the gun, we're simply going to take the marker, the entire bolt kit, slide it right back into the gun like so, and then take your Allen wrench right here to the back cap and make sure you screw that in tight. You definitely want to make sure you get all the way in with this back cap, because if this back cap is even half a turn out, you're going to find that the gun's not going to shoot properly, the ball's going to roll back in the breech, the eyes are not going to read that paintball, and that's going to cause you to chop paint. You definitely don't want that, so make sure this is nice and tight and snug in there. So there you have it. Your die fuse bolt system is now cleaned, re-lubed, and back in your gun and ready to shoot. Now, depending on the use, I'd recommend doing this maintenance probably about every 2 to 3 weeks for heavy use where you're playing consistently every day, every weekend, or maybe towards a month to 2 months where you're not playing as much and you're the casual once a month or 1 day a weekend kind of player. So, now with all that said, DMs and PM guns are now more affordable than ever, with the Die Matrix 13 as low as $9.99 available right here at AG Paintball through our shop. Almost every color is available, with the exception of 2 very limited edition colors that were only available at Paintball Extravaganza earlier in the year. So we all know the PSP World Cup event is right around the corner, and for the last 10 years, Die's made it a point to come out with a new, innovative, better design for their Die Matrix line. Every year it's been debuted at PSP World Cup. What do you guys think is going to be there this year? So we hope you guys found the video helpful in some way, and we hope you enjoyed it. Again, I'm Alex from PI Paintball and AG Paintball, and I will see you guys next week.